Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew,
I'm Nathan.
and we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Cheers, everybody. Good morning. We are recording this on January 14th, so just the weekend before it is going to be released. Make sure you guys listen to last week's episode. We talked a lot about Warhammer, so that means in our news segment at the end, we're not going to talk a ton about that. So make sure you guys tune into episode 10, and you guys will be all up to date. That being said, we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of Warhammer here because, weirdly enough, the topic that we're going to be talking about today, DC and what the frick is happening over there, is actually going to spill into multiple fandoms. So we're very excited to get into it today.
Yes, we're going to talk a lot about one of our favorite fandoms, which is DC, and how that affects some of our other favorite fandoms, Warhammer and Star Wars. And there'll probably be a sprinkling of Marvel in there as well. I mean, classic nerd stuff. So I hope you guys who do have more than one interest really get a lot out of this episode.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't seen already, James Gunn, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, so a Marvel property and then a DC property, he is now essentially the head of the DC cinematic universe at this point. He is the Kevin Feige over at DC.
All right.
So this is a very new development. And so, like I said, we're gonna be talking a lot about DC and Marvel. It's really difficult to talk about one without comparing it to the other, and we're hopefully going to do a fair job of comparing the two. I love both. Batman is my favorite superhero. Like the Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
Such a good trilogy.
It's some of the best film ever made. It's not just it's a niche superhero movie that only fans of Batman will like. No, I think it's just a legitimately good movie.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
That also being said, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will probably be James Gunn's last foray into the Marvel Universe. Not really hard to imagine why. You know, he's putting all his eggs in the DC basket. So he's going to finish out Guardians 3, which if you haven't seen the trailer, people are going to die. Someone's going to die.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have any predictions?
Oh, gosh. I think Rocket's going to die. I don't think Groot can die. I think he's functionally immortal as long as there's like a single, let's say, branch of him left, right? I don't know if they'll kill Star-Lord or not. I'd be fine if they did. Gosh, what's his name? Chris Pratt. I was thinking Chris Pine there for a second. Chris Pratt is kind of a hard one to hold on to. Like, he's a big name actor.
Chris number 3?
Yeah, like Hemsworth, Pine, Pratt, there we go. Yeah, so I'm finally getting through all of them. So he might die, but I think Rocket will die. I think Rocket's a pretty lovable character, and so them killing him off would tug at those emotional heartstrings a little bit. Other than that, Gamora's already dead, right? She died in the...
we have new...
Or no, right, there's new Gamora. My brain is like, yeah, still, I need to go through and like watch all those movies again in succession and not having multiple months of distance in between them so I can get my story straight. But yeah, new Gamora is here, and that's always strange. I'm guessing that they're probably going to kind of renew the romance between Gamora and Star-Lord, and then one of them's going to die, probably Star-Lord, and then it's going to like be sad again because then they're like, they rekindled their love, and then one of them dies.
Interesting prediction.
That's my prediction.
I'd be a little low-key upset if that happened. Low-key. No.
Boo.
I'm so stupid. I think Drax is going to die.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a weak move. Like, Drax is not a emotionally invested character. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just totally me.
No, he's not.
But like Drax is like kind of a boring character. He like has his like comedic moments, but also Guardians of the Galaxy is written to be like half comedy, half action film. So you're like, okay, another comedy character. I don't know. I feel like he doesn't add a ton to the movies. So
I say that because in the trailer, he has like a blaster shot hole in his chest, and so they're like dragging him away. And I think the thought is that like, oh, he's gonna like barely survive. Actually, no, I think it is gonna be Rocket. I think Drax is a red herring. Now that I really think about what was in the trailer, I was like, that's too easy. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't show that much. So yeah, I think it's gonna be the little trash bandit.
Rocket Raccoon is gonna die.
It's gonna die. You heard it here first, folks. Actually, that's probably not true. Probably tons of people think he's going to die.
To be fair, I do hope he steals another limb from somebody, just as kind of like his continued trophy hunting, and then he can die. He needs to steal one more person's limb. How much for the leg? Yeah, I want that to happen at least one more time, because that is.
So, did you see the Guardians Christmas special?
No.
So, he gets the Winter Soldier's arm as a Christmas present. So he has Bucky's arm out in nowhere.
Is that canon?
Yeah.
So it's not like the Star Wars holiday special where it's totally not canon. Oh my gosh, why? Okay. I mean, that's funny, but like, I know he has like a new arm because he gets one from the Wakandans. Bucky does. So it's like, okay, his old arm. Although having a big Soviet star on your arm, like big silver arm, is kind of cool. So
the one he gets is his Wakandan arm. So I think Bucky now needs a third arm.
Oh my gosh, dude, leave the guy alone. The guy gets tortured by Soviets for like 40 years, gets turned into an assassin, loses his arm like 1, 2. Now he's getting his third arm. Dude's practically like Anakin Skywalker. Like, leave the guy alone.
Which is really funny because like a lot of people on the internet wanted to fan cast the actor who plays Bucky as a younger Mark Hamill, because they have like a similar facial structure.
There you go.
We stan Sebastian Stan. What we're really here to talk about is DC, and we haven't talked about DC at all.
All right, so if you guys have not heard, DC, the universe, has gotten a little bit of a reboot. So there has been some serious, huge changes over there considering casting, directors, and just movies straight up getting canceled. It has been an exciting last few months. I shouldn't say exciting. If you're a DC superfan, this is horrifying. Like, this is a horrible thing that's happening. So first big one is Henry Cavill will not be returning as his role as Superman. This is confirmed. Now, we mentioned at the beginning of the episode that there's quite a bit of spillover from the DC universe into all of these other fandoms. So if you are a fan of The Witcher, he is not going to be coming back as Geralt, which I know some people that are very, very upset at this because that's apparently where he shines. He does a really, really good Witcher, and that's actually really a bummer. So that is kind of our first like foray into like affecting another fictional universe, right? So DC's
grunts.
Stop. DC's taking a hit. Witcher is also taking a hit. Now, if you're wondering, okay, so if he's not going to be in DC and he's not going to be in Witcher, what is he doing? He's coming into Warhammer, baby. Let's go. So that's super exciting, actually. There are rumors. There's been a flood of memes that Mr. Cavill, I'm going to say his last name wrong so many times, Mr. Cavill is going to be the Emperor. I don't think that's true. I think that's definitely,
no way.
That's like grade A meme material, but that's not actually what is going to happen. There is, I think you had a good theory you had mentioned the other day of what role he's going to play. I would love you to mention that.
So there's a couple different roles that he would do really well as. I think as like one step down from the big golden boy, just being a regular golden boy, i.e. the Adeptus Custodes, which he is famously known for fielding an Adeptus Custodes armor in the Warhammer 40,000 tabletop game.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be really interesting. I think it would be really cool to see Henry Cavill playing a Custodes in the Blood Games. So if you don't know, Blood Games are when the Adeptus Custodes, who are the bodyguards of the Emperor of Mankind, they basically go off on their own and they try to break into the palace without being seen, and they basically try to get within killing distance of the Emperor. And from that, what they learn is a couple of things. They learn the weaknesses of the palace, the weaknesses of like personnel there, different tactics that people might use. And sometimes it's not uncommon for a custodian to take up to a decade in these Blood Games trying to break into the palace. They're immortal, basically.
Yeah, functionally immortal.
They are. Yeah, they are immortal. They don't really age. Hi, Barney. Because of that, they have all the time in the world. Mm-hmm. And as you probably already know, and for our listeners who may not be aware, the Emperor did get killed. He's sort of in like a half-death, mostly death state on his golden throne, where people are actually sacrificed to him to keep him alive, which his whole thing was, he's like, I'm not a god, and now people are very much treating him like a god. One of my theories is that he actually is going to reach godhood into the new canon. He's not going to be a chaos god, but he's going to be in the same pantheon.
Yeah,
with that. But that would be a really cool thing for us to see Henry Cavill in the Blood Games, and I think that would be a really interesting way to show us the Warhammer world and show us just what's all going on there. So
absolutely, I would say with that, he is shouldering a huge burden here because Warhammer is a really, really thriving and loud community, but it's not a huge community, right? In the grand, like if you're looking at like the sizes of different fandoms and things like that. The Star Wars community is one of the bigger ones. And then Marvel, DC, all of these things have been around for a really, really long time. And keep in mind, Warhammer's been around for a long time as well. But like, this is a smaller fandom. So with bringing the notoriety of Cavill into this, he has a huge responsibility to the fans to make this really good, because a lot of people who have like Warhammer Plus, for example, which is Warhammer's exclusive streaming service, most people don't say good things about it. Just the shows and the content that comes out there is lackluster, and it's not bringing new fans into the fold. And that's part of the reason we even started this podcast, was to like bring more fans into just different things, to get kind of the awareness of different nerddoms out there. And that's what we wanted to do. And so I think he has a really, really big responsibility to do the Warhammer community justice and really get this thing to blow up, because it is one of the coolest, and probably I would say it is, the lore for Warhammer is more deep and complex than even like Star Wars, even with the Legends canon attached to it. I think it's much deeper than that. There's just so much detail that all of these authors have been putting in. There's hundreds of books in the Black Library. There's really fun games. The tabletop game is incredibly popular. And hopefully all of that will just get better.
There's quite a few actors in the DC universe because James Gunn is allegedly moving towards a DC reboot. Strong parallels will probably be made to the Star Wars reboot back in, what was it, 2013?
Yeah.
When Lucasfilm basically in a boardroom said, hey, everything from this point forward is canon. Everything from this point before is not, excluding the film and television, which was pretty hurtful. I wouldn't say I'm over it.
10 years later.
Yeah, because
that hurts a little bit, doesn't it?
That one hurts. We grew up playing the old games and reading the books, and it's just unfortunate to see. It's like, okay, all of that's not the official story anymore, and now it's like, okay, now we're comparing the old stuff to the new stuff. And Star Wars didn't have the depth of storylines like DC and Marvel in the comics, where it's like universes were constantly getting rebooted. There's only been one Star Wars reboot, and it was, in my opinion, it was not done well. With that, people are worried about the DC reboot that is rumored and what's going on. So with that, Jason Momoa is rumored to not be reprising his role as Aquaman. Aquaman, I think, is the most popular box office wise of all the DC movies in the current canon.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah.
It's in the top 50 of highest grossing movies of all time.
Wow. I mean, that's impressive, but also like later we'll go through why it's not as impressive as Marvel, for sure.
Yes. Ezra Miller, who plays the Flash, will be reprising his role despite some of his legal troubles. Again, we're not a celebrity gossip channel. I'm just, he got in some legal trouble for something. I don't even know what it was. I'm not interested in knowing. Here's my policy on celebrities. The more I know about a celebrity, the less I like them. So don't tell me anything. I don't want to know.
That's fair. Let's keep it on screen.
Yeah.
And then maybe a picture of them hugging a puppy. I don't know. Other than that, I don't want to see it.
Or playing Warhammer.
Do like that. I love it.
Yeah. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character of the Black Adam, which the movie just came out. He's the foil of Shazam, which is another movie that has a sequel coming out. It's uncertain whether or not he'll be returning. We'll be watching this with great interest. I was not a huge fan of Black Adam, but I like Dwayne Johnson, so if he's in it, I'll watch it.
Yeah. I'll watch it eventually. It's been on HBO Plus for a while, and I'm just like, I haven't gotten around to watching it. There's so much stuff on there that I've been going through, and I'm just like, I don't have the time to watch all of this. So
it is not a movie you need your brain for. So
that's fair.
If you're having just a rough day and you want to do something, turn it on in the background. Watch The Rock punch a bunch of civilians into red mist.
Yikers.
Yeah.
It looks like, as you said, or sorry, you already mentioned the portion about Ezra Miller. Zachary Levi still will be, he's going to come back as Shazam in this new reboot, correct?
Yes. So his reboot is coming out later this year. So I'm excited to see it.
Sweet.
It didn't perform. It's a moderately performing DC movie. It's kind of silly, which is a little weird because DC has kind of been darker overall.
Yeah.
So
They
we'll
have
see.
gone for that like very dark and edgy. I don't know if you've watched Titans at all, but they very much go for that vibe, and it's all right. Especially for when your first intro to the Titans is via Teen Titans, and then you go to
Yeah.
this like new reprised version. You're like, these guys are all mad. So it's kind of interesting. It's decently good. I would maybe give it like a
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
Is that
But
the
it's
animated one?
no, it's live action Titans HBO Max.
Maybe I need to get an HBO Max subscription.
There you go. They have some good shows on there, mostly just because they have all the DC universe. So I've been trying to catch up on a lot of those. That's my main reason for having it. So it's like, so I can go through all that.
And then the last point we wanted to cover is Wonder Woman 3 just straight up got canceled. It's not being filmed anymore.
They crumpled it up and threw it in the trash.
Yeah, they're like, we're not doing this. And I mean, at this point, it's unclear if Gal Gadot will reprise her role as Wonder Woman. I liked the first Wonder Woman. The second one, totally forgettable.
Have it?
Time.
Was it Wonder Woman 1984? Is that the second one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's not good.
I thought the first Wonder Woman was okay. We actually have it on Blu-ray. If you guys don't know what Blu-ray is, it's the magical little discs that we used to replace DVDs before streaming services took everything over.
I think people know what Blu-rays are.
I know.
Unless our audience is like
all 12 years old for some reason.
What the heck is he talking about?
What's a disc? All our viewers are Australian.
I don't look weird.
Australians are some of the coolest people. They're a little strange, but they're some of the coolest people, so I'll take it.
You get cooler when you have a lot of things.
Very true.
So let's discuss. Does DC need a reboot?
That's hard to answer, mostly just because something doesn't perform well doesn't mean you should reboot it. So for example, phase 1 and 2 of Marvel is like probably the best Marvel movies so far. And then it gets progressively worse as you get into 3 and what? We're now into the end of phase 4. Is that what we're in?
I think we just finished phase 4. 3 is...
Oh, that's crazy.
What? The phases aren't super clear. Phase 3 was Civil War, Ragnarok, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Infinity War, and...
I'm assuming Endgame.
And Endgame, yeah.
Yeah.
So phase 3 was arguably the best. 1 and 2 ramped up to that. Phase 4 has been lackluster.
Yeah, big drop off. And to be fair, like they I feel like they did the Infinity War series really, really good. And although I will say Infinity War, I liked better than Endgame. And if you guys are a fan of the podcast, we try not to gatekeep for anything, but we'll always let you know what our opinions is. I don't like time travel. I think time travel is just a sign of bad writing, and it's a cop-out to everything. That's originally why I got out of watching the Flash series, because I was like, if they time travel one more freaking time, I'm going to be so salty. And they were just like time traveling all over the place. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And then they did the same thing with Endgame. And I was like, time traveling is not a way to solve it's so far out of the realm of possibility. And like the fact that this is a mystical universe and then they do it with science, I'm like, boo on you. If it's a mystical time travel, that makes a little bit more sense. So if like Doctor Strange found a spell book and he decides to like go through and like create a time portal, that's fine. But the fact that Tony Stark was like, hey, I invented time travel, I'm like, dude, you're not that smart. Like that's, I don't know. His brain is his superpower at that point. So, which I know that's like kind of the 50% of Iron Man is how smart Tony Stark is. But it's just like, it really lost me. I don't really like this very much. It drove me nuts. I mean, the ending fight scene is cool. It very much reminded me of the Battle of Pelennor Fields in Return of the King, Lord of the Rings. But I don't know. Yeah.
So you're probably not really excited for Quantumania then?
No, I have almost no interest. I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to watch it, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't like time travel.
So that'll be good for future content. We're going to get some really diametrically opposed opinions on some of the new Marvel movies, and we're going to talk about our likes and dislikes. As far as the original question, does DC need a reboot? I think yes. It's struggled with its identity and its direction just overall, and it's not good. I shouldn't say it's not good, because I've enjoyed the DC movies I watched. I'm not trying to just be like, oh, they're the worst movies ever made, and like I had a stroke watching the most recent one. Like, no. I do think DC needs a reboot. Just short and simple. I think if it does reboot, It should not do the Star Wars way, which is just in a boardroom. I think it should be thematic. I think it should be part of the story. There should be some sort of universe altering or apocalyptic event that essentially resets everything story wise. Because then it doesn't say that, oh, these previous movies don't matter. It's like, actually, yes, these still do matter, and they led up to this point instead of just being, well, that was a waste of time, and now we don't care.
Well, and DC has an automatic way out for this is the multiverse theory, right? They can essentially go between different universes, and there's copies of all the heroes theoretically at an infinite number of multiverses. So they can go from whichever universe they're in right now, and then they can just switch to another. So maybe, and they've got villains that could potentially already be the world ending events that they need. So like maybe Darkseid comes in and just like destroys everything, or they bring in another like super like mega villain.
Darkseid in the Justice League? Wasn't he the bad guy in the Justice League?
I think he might have been. He's pretty cool. He's very overpowered, so he could just come in and just wreck everything. You know, it could be a lot of different villains. You know, their villain power creep is pretty incredible. So they have a lot of ways to get in this. They could keep it thematic. There is a way out essentially from these movies. It's just whether or not, if they do it well, will the fans be okay with it? Because we all know that nerd fans are probably the most brutal critics of everything. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, we're kind of in that boat too. But like we said, we're trying not to gatekeep. We're trying to do a better job of respecting everyone's opinions while also voicing our own, which is sometimes it's a hard line to cross. Cool. So something I whipped up is I looked at the highest grossing films of all time on Wikipedia, and Marvel has 10 entries on this list.
Wow.
Marvel owns 20% of the top 50.
That's pretty good.
Incredible. Disney owns even more because like both Avatar movies are like super high up there.
And the Star Wars movies as well. So if you're counting all of those, it's probably closer to like 35%. So
yeah. But we're not talking about just Disney. But Marvel owns 10 of them. DC has 4 of them. However, only one of them is in the current canon. So they have Aquaman at number 26, The Dark Knight Rises at number 33, The Joker at number 34, and The Dark Knight at 50.
Oh, there you go.
The Dark Knight Rises, and Joker are not part of the current DC canon.
Right, because they're done by different actors and stuff.
Yeah, these versions of those characters are not part of the official story. And it's not done by the current DC storyboard that's currently chugging out movies. So you can't even really count those. So and with Aquaman at number 26 and Jason Momoa not returning, like that's kind of a rough hit.
I was gonna say that's a big hit for their current top dog.
Yeah, but both of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies were pretty successful. So I'm excited to see what James Gunn is going to do. The second Suicide Squad was like, I read a review on it that it was like super low in the box office, but its ratings are like, its audience ratings are like above 90%. Like the people who did watch it loved it, and then it just didn't get seen in theaters a lot.
Interesting.
So
I mean, I didn't see it, so that tracks, but
yeah. And then for comparison, Marvel has 10 entries on the list, like I said before. Endgame at number 2, Infinity War at 5, Spider-Man No Way Home at 6, Avengers the original at 9, Age of Ultron at 13. So every single Avengers entry is on here.
Yeah. Big
Black
shock.
Panther, Black Panther at 15, Iron Man 3 at 23. That one surprised me because I don't think people liked Iron Man 3. Or was it Iron Man 2?
Iron Man 2 was arguably the worst one, in my opinion, right?
Yeah. I think that's
Iron Man 3, much better because you get to deal with a lot of like the crisis of Tony Stark, and that's like a big character molding movie for him. I'm surprised Iron Man 1 is not on this movie because Iron Man 1 was such a strong step for Marvel back into the cinematic universe. Because before that we had like a Hulk movie that wasn't really good. No one really liked it. And then Iron Man came in and like the special effects were amazing. The costume design, fantastic. And you just like got into this, and it ages very, very well. It's not like you look back and you're like, oh, that's gross. That's terrible. You look at it and you're like, This is frankly an amazingly done movie. Again, the special effects, all of that, super great.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Iron Man 1 has aged really well. Civil War is number 25. I thought this should have been higher because it was really good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Far From Home is 28. Captain Marvel is 29. I didn't actually like Captain Marvel all that much, but
I didn't either. I thought it was like
yeah,
okay. I probably would have given it
I thought it
maybe
was
like
fine.
a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. However, having a female-led movie, I think, is really important because comic books have a strong history of being for men and not women. So
Yeah,
having Captain Marvel in the top 50 is, I think, good.
that's a
It's
good
really
step
good.
forward. Absolutely. I mean, you can tell that in comic books just by the way the characters are drawn. You're like, I wonder who this is for. And that's just how it is, you know. And we have often said like we don't want to be gatekeepers. We want everyone to get into this.
As our last little foray into the top 50 highest grossing films of all time, Star Wars has 5 entries, and some of these are the lowest ranking movies that we did on
Uh,
our tier list. So maybe take our own opinions with a grain of salt. You know, we're not right. We're not.
Absolutely, our
Uh,
opinions definitely do not reflect the box office showings. So
yes.
there you
So
go.
Phantom Menace is at number 45. Rogue One, which is my favorite, at number 39.
Yeah,
Whoop, whoop. Uh, The Rise of Skywalker is at number 35. The Last Jedi is at number 17. And The Force Awakens, number 4.
I
Highest grossing movie of all
so
time.
I totally get why The Force Awakens is number 4
Yes.
because they had such a long build-up period that so many people went to see this. There was so much hype for this movie, which again really didn't set them off, in our opinion, did not set them off on a good foot because the movie did not match the hype, and the hype was infinite. Which is a problem because they waited so long to put extra movies into this. And there were some pretty like memorable, there were a few points in The Force Awakens that I really really enjoyed, and I thought did justice to the fandom really well, like just a few. But overall it was kind of like the movie was like pretty lackluster, but the hype was
It was
huge. Like the fact that
gigantic.
like we were like we get more Star Wars movies in our lifetime, like we're getting a trilogy.
We thought
This
it
is
wasn't going to happen.
crazy. Yeah,
We thought we were done.
absolutely. And we were not. Hopefully, we're still not as well, arguably, I
Star
would
Wars
like to
has a
say.
really bright Star Wars has a really bright future ahead of it. Well, what does what does DC have to do with Star Wars? The director for Wonder Woman 3, Patty Jenkins, whose movie was now canceled, was reportedly not working on her entry into the Star Wars cinema world with a movie called Rogue Squadron. We are assuming that Patty Jenkins will be able to take all of her energy and effort and put that into developing Rogue Squadron. It basically was on the back burner while Wonder Woman 3 was getting filmed. It's hard to direct 2 movies at once because it's a full-time job. So we get it. So while we are sad that DC is taking a hit and DC is sort of getting its life together, so to speak, this means a lot of really positive things for the other fandoms, like Rogue Squadron. If you have not read the Rogue Squadron books, they were written, I think, in the 90s. They
They're a
are
little old,
fantastic.
but they are good.
They hold up. I think they're so good. I'm obviously looking back with like rose-colored glasses, and
So
I
weirdly
think
enough,
they're amazing.
I have not read them yet because I had them all downloaded totally legally onto a USB drive, and but I also have the Horus Heresy series to finish first,
Yeah,
and I'm actually cruising through the Horus Heresy series. I'm like back into it. I've kind of renewed my interest into it again, which has been good. But I'm going to read or listen to Rogue Squadron after I finish the Horus Heresy, which who knows
yeah.
how long this is going to take. I've been listening through this for 2 years now, the Horus Heresy.
It's a
So
lot of books.
it's
It's
a
a
lot of books.
lot of books.
So
Like
I
I
would
could
love.
almost finish my annual reading challenge just doing the Horus Heresy.
Pretty much. I'd actually love to kind of add something into the Patty Jenkins talk, just a little quote I found
Please
from
do.
GameRant.com. So, from GameRant.com, an article there. Luckily, even though Wonder Woman fell through, it looks like Jenkins has no intention of leaving Rogue Squadron in the dust. After the Wonder Woman 3 news dropped, she released a statement on Twitter to clear things up on her own terms. Quote, I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process when it became clear it couldn't happen soon enough, and I did not want to delay Wonder Woman 3 any further. Jenkins explained, when I did, Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to Rogue Squadron after Wonder Woman 3, which I honored which I was honored to do so. So I agreed. They made a new deal with me. In fact, I am still on it, and the project has been in active development ever since. I don't know if it will happen or not. We never do until the development process is complete, but I look forward to its potential ahead. So Patty Jenkins is heavily implying that we are going to keep doing this, and as long as she keeps doing it until someone else pulls the plug, it's going to happen. Right.
Sweet.
So that's really exciting for Rogue Squadron. Not excited for Rogue Squadron or for I was going to say Rogue Squadron 3, Wonder Woman 3, which kind of stinks, but really good to hear, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Do we know why Wonder Woman 3 was canceled?
I don't know. I haven't found anything yet. I mean, it could just, to me, it seems like it's in line with the reboot that DC is doing. If Wonder Woman 3 was not going to take them into the direction that they needed, and it was going to make them harder to reboot the series, then cut your losses, right? If they're like, hey, if we just move this forward and it creates a lot of brand confusion, that's actually going to lose them a lot of money. And like, yes, they're going to make money from the box office when it comes out because it's a superhero movie with a very well-known actress. You gotta, like, I think they're really taking into concern like what their brand value is going to look like with that. And so that's just kind of my speculation. Like Wonder Woman 3 didn't fit the direction that the brand and the directors wanted to go. And so they made a hard choice and they cut it, which I think when money is involved, if they were willing to sink that much money into Wonder Woman 3 and abandon it, I feel like they had a good reason, because these movies are all about the money. If they said we can do more if we cut this off now, I think that hopefully that means good things are in stock for the DC universe. And that's just me speculating.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. It's a hard thing. Movies are expensive. They require tons and tons of people, all who make a decent amount of hourly wage, and people are hard to pay. So cutting a movie off and not getting the return from it, they either are being incredibly foolish or they know what they're doing, and I think it's the latter. At future episodes, we'd love to hear your comments down below. But if you know nothing about Rogue Squadron, go ahead and throw something down into the comments. We would love to hear. Be like, hey, like I don't know anything about this. Could you guys do like an episode or like some series or some shorts?
Oh my gosh, I would love to do a series on Rogue Squadron. So let us know, guys. We've gotten some pretty good feedback on YouTube and TikTok, especially. That seems where people seem to be the most active. And some people go really deep into the comments. Some people are very deliberate on the way that they use social media, which honestly, I'm like, props to you for doing, because that sounds like so much work. And I just mindlessly scroll when I'm there, but good for them. But we've gotten some good feedback from some people, really getting like opinions from both sides of the spectrum, especially for our Andor series. Some people are like, Diego Luna's trash. And other people are like, he is the best thing to face this earth. And they just like, it's funny. We get both sides. And I've been really enjoying that.
Interacting with people on social media has been interesting, because we do get those really virulent responses about stuff, and just to practice what we preach, it's hard to not just shun these people and block them and be rude to them. And I think one guy, he probably thought I was being a little passive aggressive, but he's like, Andor's trash, and I just said, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Broken heart emoji.
Broken heart emoji. It probably came off across as rude, but I do kind of feel that way, because I want people to enjoy Star Wars. I was really let down after 7, 8, and 9, and I wish I could have enjoyed it, because like I saw that other people were, and there was just like some hangups that I had that I couldn't like drop, and I was in a way almost jealous of the people who could just be like we're fine, we love this, we think it's great. Like there's a lot of really young girls who are getting into Star Wars, and they're like, Rey is my hero, and I'm like, that's so important, because like these things are branching off from being just like a primarily men's story to equally representing both men and women, and which is what we want to see. We want an inclusive fandom. It's more fun that way. More fans is more fun.
Absolutely, 100%. The more the merrier.
Okay, so we've talked in our episode about DC, we've spent about 30% of our time talking about DC. But I mean, that's kind of the point. We should talk about, so we already talked about how James Gunn's shakeup over at DC means that Cavill can spend his time over at Amazon Studios with Warhammer. And we just don't know what that's going to look like yet, other than it's just been confirmed. I think I saw a news piece, and I don't know whether or not this is true. It's a rumor. There's a word for it. It's called a rumor. There's a rumor that he hasn't actually signed a contract yet.
Oh, that dude needs to put his pen. He needs to put his signature on something.
It's like, dude, it's like, you can't. Don't tease us, man.
I was going to say,
you're gonna freak out.
The rumors I've heard is that he's going to play a character, and he is actually going to work as a director as well.
Yes,
that's what I've heard
as well.
So that would be really cool.
I think that's all we have to talk about for the most part. Do we want to move on to our regular weekly questions, which we haven't done in a really long time?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
What have you been watching recently?
My wife and I are actually about to finish Lego Masters Season 3. So super excited about that. Makes me want to get into Lego. But the problem is like Lego's a very expensive hobby, and I already have expensive hobbies. I have technology. I have Warhammer. I'm like, yes. I still am wanting to take another step into Warhammer. Like I play orcs, as you guys have heard me say many times before, but like I have a small orc army, which is very unorky. So for me, I want to like really take that next step into the hobby and build a really big army. Yeah. So with that, I don't want to spend the extra dollars on Lego when I don't have the extra dollars to spend on Warhammer, right? Which is really a bummer, but I know my wife also likes Lego. So like that could be something really cool to do together. And I would love eventually to have some Lego sets, like potentially like up in the background or something like that. I would love that. But it's something, it gets me into the hobby without having to spend money. So that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. So I actually have a Lego X-Wing at my desk at work. And every time I look at it, I'm like, that was really fun to build. I really like looking at it. Yeah, it sparks joy for sure.
Love it. What have you been watching recently?
What have I been watching recently? We've been watching Willow. So we've been watching.
Ooh, is that any good?
It's fine. If you enjoyed the original Willow movie, you will definitely like the new series. It's a little cheesy. However, it's a little strange because the original movie was like very kid friendly. Not that this one isn't, but this one is a little bit more grown up. Some of the passions between some of the characters are they turn the temperature up a little bit. There's no sexual content, but like there's tension. You know what I'm talking about? There's romantic tension between some of the characters, and like you can almost cut it with a knife at some point. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit more language, but it's also there's still that silliness of like them like doing their spell incantations because it's just made up gibberish. But if you can get past, I mean, it is. You could probably do a whole study on why maybe the spells in Harry Potter like don't seem weird, but like the ones in Willow to me do seem weird. I don't know. I think it's all right. I would give it. I'll probably finish it and probably not rewatch it, but it's fun to watch for now. Warwick Davis is really good. I always love seeing him and stuff. And then
next one's what games have you been playing?
Yeah. Right now I'm playing Marvel Snap on my phone, which is really fun. I'm actually almost into the Vibranium League, I think is
nice.
50 plus, which has been really difficult. The game is definitely growing because I see tons and tons of variety of different decks. There's just lots of players right now. It's kind of hard to grow and rank. Like last season, I probably could have gotten all the way to infinite if I had tried a little harder and gotten to the game a little earlier.
Yeah.
But now that like it's really starting to pick up, like it's not just full of noobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the game I'm playing on my phone. I'm also playing a lot of Call of Duty Mobile. Now that I have a new phone that actually connects to my phone via Bluetooth, I might try that out on stream as well. And then on stream, I'm also playing Empire at War, Forces of Corruption, which is like an antique at this point.
It's so old.
It's so old.
It's so good, though.
It came from the golden age of Star Wars. It's an RTS game, so it's a real-time strategy, and you get to fight in space and on the ground, and it's just really fun. It's what I want from a Star Wars game. So I'm replaying an old one, and it has a really active modding community. So if you guys want to catch me on my Twitch, I can plug myself. Mondays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. PST. I stream for about 2 hours in the evening. Yeah, and we're just doing it for fun right now. Like I'm working towards being a Twitch affiliate. I don't really know what that process is. You might have to walk me through it because I know you're a Twitch affiliate.
Yeah, you just stream, you have a certain number of viewers for a certain amount of time. And then once you hit that mark, you can start earning bits and subscriptions and things like that. The cut's pretty low. I would actually love to do an episode later on like streaming on YouTube versus streaming on Twitch, because that's actually something I've been considering doing because I've seen some really big names switch over, and I might switch myself. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Mostly just because the Twitch terms and conditions have changed for the betterment of the company, not for the betterment of the streamers in the last year. So, but that's something we can talk about at a different time. I've been playing Dawn of War, and that I have also been streaming. So I've been streaming that on Thursdays right now. I also stream 2 times a week. I would love to get into streaming 3 times a week, but I do my podcast content on Tuesday mornings and then my streams on Thursday mornings. So those are the only 2 times I basically have set aside to do that. I'd love to do that on Saturdays as well, but we usually record on Saturdays. We do this podcast on Saturdays. So it's kind of hard to squeeze all that in and actually find the time to edit everything. That's really the time suck where that all comes from. So the hobby work I've been getting into is I have been working on my kill tank. So I have been adding a lot of different, so these orange splotches have now got different gradients from red all the way into actually some very like small highlights of yellow. And so I've been working on all of these. This is an Abrams tank model that is probably older than I am, and I am repurposing it for the purpose of orcs. So right here on the top here, this is Makari. So this is Makari's kill tank, and this is probably one of my favorite models so far. And on the top here, these 2 little, what look like ball sacks here, are actually the heads of Space Marines. And I'm going to be coloring those different legions. And I also have their packs glued to the side here. So once I finish painting everything, I'm going to start painting on war trophies, and I'm going to be putting that all the way down the line. So that's going to be really fun. That's what I've been working on. And then I need to get my Def Dread proxy put together. This is going to be really hard because I would have loved to plug the makers for this because it's a beautiful model, but it's not up to snuff for what you see is what you get, or WYSIWYG, if you guys haven't heard that term before. And it only has 2 arms, but it's supposed to have 4 weapons. So do the math there really quick and realize that there's a little bit of a problem in getting everything actually attached to the model. But that's what I've been working on. We've got a game coming up at the end of the month, and so I really want to get this as close to tabletop ready as possible. And I have 2 different Weird Boys to finish and Gaz, and I have so much painting to do and so little time to do it. What about you?
For me, I'm working on a couple different things. I'm still working on my cybernetic Triceratops proxy, which is proxying as a Repulsor Executioner. Like I said, we play a lot of casual games, so proxies are a really fun way to not spend a lot of money and still get big models on the table. Another thing I'm doing is I'm working on some terrain pieces. So I'm trying out my air spray majigger, my Deedly Bob airbrush. That's what it's called. So this is only phase 1. So like you can see, there's just a bunch of different colors. I'm definitely inspired by kyber crystals and the caves of Ilum when just covering this up. This was from a different board game entirely. It's got these like hex pieces. So these are like, different hexes that you can place on a board. So it was just like a pale blue and white. And I was like, I want to change the color. So I put down an initial layer. There's some places where I wasn't too thrilled with the coverage. You can kind of see it's really spotty. But then on the tops, there's some white, but I'm going to go back over and cover all of these with white to show like snow on them.
I'm digging it, dude. That's going to be awesome.
And I have 3 different pieces like this that I'm working on. And then I'm hoping, because Space Marines got such significant point buff in the last data slate, I'm hoping to basically run the same amount of point army, but I'm basically going to increase my troop capacity by upwards of 25%.
There you go.
Like amount of models on the board, including a Raven Wing.
That's also going to be really dope.
I think it's the Dark Talon.
Your Dark Talon is going to be amazing. So thank you guys for watching. We have had a lot of fun kind of looking into the DC news, because the DC news has been spilling into so many other universes. We're very excited to get into more of it. If you guys have any topics, discussions, or different nerddoms you guys want us to cover, let us know. And we're hopefully going to be producing some quite a few more episodes, and actually some lore series as well. So make sure you guys follow us and subscribe on YouTube so you guys don't miss a thing. That's the best way to support the podcast right now, is like it, comment, subscribe, watch it, share it with a friend. This costs you nothing to do. We didn't mention this in the last episode, but we don't have any monetary setups. So don't worry about sending us money or anything. We just want you guys to listen. This is just for fun right now.
That's the way you can support us.
That's the best way. We'd love to get more of you guys viewing, and quite a few of you already have. So thank you guys so much for sharing your opinions with us. We really value it. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
Close your eyes.